when I was basically bedridden from 1989 to 1994, right, I was spending my money. All right, I spent almost all the money I had, right, not seeking cures to my chronic fatigue syndrome. I spent almost all the money I had sending Dennis Prager tapes out to my friends who frequently didn't listen to them, who laughed at them, who said that I must be mad. And I realized now, yeah, they were right. I was mad. I was getting much of my meaning and purpose in life from my imaginary or virtual friend, Dennis Prager. And because I became convinced that like Dennis Prager was such a great man, that simultaneously buoyed up my own sense of self, because I had some, slender connection to Dennis Prager. And so I was connected to the great man. So the greater Dennis Prager was, the more important Dennis Prager was, the more prescient Dennis Prager was, right, that the greater I was, because I recognized his greatness, and that I had, a slender personal connection to Dennis Prager. I was connected to this source of greatness and life and love, and it was embarrassing when I look back and see, how eagerly I, jumped into the Dennis Prager cult. But I did it from a place like maybe you. Do you have above average levels of anxiety, above average levels of depression? Do you feel, disconnected from people in your life? Are you unsatisfied with your real world alternatives? Then you'll find a virtual guru, a parasocial relationship with a YouTube personality or a talk show host. It might fill you up. You might very well prefer it to flawed people that you know in real life, because when you're getting it from a YouTube host or a podcaster or a radio talk show host, right, you're getting a performance. So Dennis Prager always says, if you listen to me on the radio, that's who I am, that's me. But it's not. It's a performance. What I'm doing now is a performance. All right. Just because you hear me on YouTube or on a podcast doesn't know you know me. You're just getting one, aspect of me. This is a performance. I have to use 5 to 10 times the amount of energy talking here to my cam. All right. Speaking across. We're live on YouTube. We are going out live on Twitter. We are live on my Facebook profile and my Facebook page. We are live on Odyssey, and we are live on Rumble, right? And, monitoring the sound quality and the visual quality and all these different platforms, and the chat takes a tremendous amount of energy, and it is a performance, all right? This is not, the real 40. It's just, one aspect. And so when Dennis Prager says, oh, what you get to know on the radio, that is the real me, it's not true. It's a performance. But it's very intoxicating, because you feel like you're developing this parasocial, relationship. So it's interesting to watch the effect that Dennis has on his protege, all right, the new Luke Ford, Julie Hartman.
Actively destructive of children. An article in The Atlantic that just came out. We have to bury the hatchet and no recriminations over mistakes made in the 2 years of COVID. In other words,
what?
Yes.
Mistakes? What mistakes?
Like locking kids down for 2 years.
Oh my
Don't
God.
start getting angry at teachers. Everybody makes well-intentioned mistakes.
This comes from the
It was
God.
evil what they did. Evil. And it was done all over the world, not just in this country. Teachers hurt kids without giving a damn about them. They're hypochondriacs and they're woke. I am so angry at what they did. I'm so angry about what medicine did, not allowing people to visit their dying relatives because of COVID. In the name of health, the amount of evil that is done, I think in the modern period, contemporary, not modern, more vile things have been done in the name of health than in any other name in free societies. And by the way, I said this years ago, my motto, Health über alles. You know what that means? So in Germany, the song in the Nazi era.
Right. This is something that gurus do all the time. I said this years ago. I made this prediction 15 years ago, right? Because, gurus and pundits, we make so many predictions, but we only remember the ones that we were right about, right? They are not going to tell you about, all the predictions that we got wrong. They claim prescience. They issue Cassandra-like warnings.
It was Deutschland über alles, Germany above all. So I've dropped Deutschland and just made health. Health über alles, health above all.
One of the most startling and disappointing things that I've seen in the past 2 years is the way that doctors, who I growing up thought were the most morally upstanding people around us, alongside teachers.
All right, so notice how he commits epistemic sabotage. All right, he's trying to diminish all these other sources of information that then elevates him. He's what's left when you diminish doctors, health agencies, academics, experts. when you get rid of all these other sources of information, say, oh, they can't be trusted, I'm the only one you can trust, right? This is how a cult leader works. Now, this is a very low-level form of cult. This is not the equivalent of that Christian evangelist in Kenya who said, come stay with me and starve yourself to meet Jesus, right? This is a much lower level, but it does have a cult-like quality. And notice the destructive effect that it has on Julie. She doesn't trust any of our institutions, right? But she does trust Dennis Prager. Now, I say apply equal levels of skepticism to Dennis Prager and to doctors and to Yale and to Harvard.
Too, but especially doctors, because I always thought they have an especially high moral obligation to not cause harm. That has been so deeply upsetting. And I have to tell you, for a time, I didn't really believe it. I didn't really believe that doctors were wreaking this much havoc. I thought, oh, maybe they just truly believe that the COVID vaccine is effective, or maybe they truly believe that lockdowns are warranted. No, it's been a real fall from grace for me. I have to tell you, I look around now in society, and I wonder who can I trust?
My heart breaks for you.
Well, come on, who does she trust? All right. She trusts Dennis Prager. And is that really such a great choice? Dennis Prager is not the worst person around. He's not the best. He's, another bozo on the bus. He's got some strong points and some weak